True crime fans, get ready to write these down. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 Netflix true crime documentaries. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at the best docuseries and documentary films about true crime on Netflix. We won't be looking at series that cover different case files in every episode.
That it was Pablo Escobar's private island and that they were flying in thousands of people on private jets. It was just the coolest party that you'd ever seen advertised.
Number 10, The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. This documentary series from Chris Smith, the director of Fire, The Greatest Party That Never Happened, tackles the famous case of Madeleine McCann, the 3-year-old British girl who went missing while on vacation with her parents in Portugal in 2007.
It's the worst thing that you can possibly imagine happening to somebody, that their child disappears.
It quickly became one of the highest profile missing child cases the world had ever seen.
I remember the police just saying that she's probably wandered off and fallen asleep under a bush, which to me sounded ridiculous.
This 8-part series takes a deep dive into the case, looking at it from many different angles, focusing on the intense media coverage, the scrutiny that was eventually put on Madeleine's parents, and the similar crimes taking place at the time.
People will consider that what happened here could happen everywhere.
Number 9, The Innocent Man. Author John Grisham may be primarily known for his fiction, but in 2006, he published a non-fiction true crime book called The Innocent Man: Murder and Injustice in a Small Town.
And evidently it was like Grand Central Station over there as far as police officers or crime scene.
The book and this series focus on Ronald Ron Keith Williamson, who was convicted of murders in the 1980s that took place in Ada, Oklahoma. He was eventually exonerated because of DNA evidence.
And Mr. Williamson, sir, you'll be discharged also from the Department of Corrections and from the Pontotoc County Sheriff's Office.
Netflix explores all of the false confessions that occurred and includes many interviews with key players in the real-life drama. Susie Fay of the Financial Times said, quote, "The story is ingeniously played out, each episode ending on a cliffhanger that makes binge watching virtually unavoidable."
Then in some reason I said, "Are you God or are you the devil?" And as soon as I said that, I woke up.
Number 8, The Keepers. When it was released in 2017, people could not stop talking about this docuseries. The Keepers tells the story of the murder of a nun in Baltimore, high school teacher Sister Kathy Sezek, which has gone unsolved since it took place in 1969.
But no one has proved that she ever came back to her apartment. Instead, she vanished.
This is about much more than a simple murder case, delving into issues with the Catholic Church that have persisted for decades and a cover-up suspected by many.
When you take a look at where she lived and where she was found, it's just too many coincidences.
Writing for Vice, Pilot Virouette said, quote, "It's harrowing and upsetting, and it will haunt you for a long time, which is part of what makes it necessary viewing."
It's wrong what's happened, but they're still unsolved.
Number 7, Amanda Knox. The story of Amanda Knox was fodder for sensationalist news outlets worldwide in 2007.
There are those who believe in my innocence, and there are those who believe in my guilt. There's no in between.
A young woman, Meredith Kircher, was murdered in Perugia, Italy, and her roommate Knox was subsequently convicted of the crime. After several years in Italian prison, Knox was acquitted and released after evidence was found implicating someone else entirely in the crime.
Rudy is telling his friend that Amanda is nowhere near the crime scene. He's saying that they had nothing to do with it.
She appears in the documentary to assert her innocence and to tell her side of the salacious story. The film was nominated for a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Documentary or Non-Fiction Special.
Thank you for being there for me.
Number 6, Casting JonBenet. While the film does focus on a true crime story, it strays far from the traditional format of the genre. Casting JonBenet doesn't try to solve the infamous 1996 murder of child beauty queen JonBenet Ramsey, but takes a unique approach to examine public perceptions about the case.
If I was being interviewed with my wife about something like that, I'd have my arm around her, I'd be holding her hand, I'd be consoling her.
By creating a fake casting call for a film that didn't actually exist about the case, the documentary makers interviewed the potential actors, asking them about their opinions on the case.
And it was the one thing that sent me through the roof, and I remember standing there screaming my lungs out at him. And to this day, I feel so horrible for doing it.
Jake Coyle for the Associated Press wrote, quote, "It uses the Ramsey story as a prism for documenting our rabid rumor-mongering and faraway judgments of personalities hoisted onto a media stage."
And there she is, walking on air she is, fairest of the fair she is, Miss America.
Number 5. Evil Genius, the true story of America's most diabolical bank heist. The story of the murder of pizza delivery man Brian Douglas Wells with a neck bomb has been called, quote, "one of the most complicated and bizarre crimes in the annals of the FBI." So it was perfectly suited to get the Netflix docuseries treatment.
The man told police that the bomb had been strapped to his body and that he was forced to rob the bank.
The case is indeed a strange and complex one. And in Evil Genius, Trey Borzilleri interviews one of the people who was implicated in and incarcerated for the crime, Marjorie Deal Armstrong.
Regardless, Marjorie couldn't hold down a job. She struggled with daily life, started to let herself go.
While there may not be a lot of legal conclusions in this case, the documentary adds an extra layer of context to what actually happened.
Why or how could an individual who knew they had a live device around their neck be so calm?
Number 4, Abducted in Plain Sight. If you want to hear a story that's just totally bonkers, you cannot miss Abducted in Plain Sight, which was made in 2017, but was picked up by Netflix and aired in early 2019.
We were driving out to go horseback riding, and all of a sudden I saw this white light coming down out of the sky.
The tale of what happened to the Broberg family in the 1970s is so unbelievable that it will leave you screaming at your TV with every new twist and turn.
It was always about sex at that point. That was what all of those encounters were about for him.
While there is a lot of disturbing content in this documentary, it's not about a murder. So if you have a tough time with grisly details, this could be a good compromise.
And I walked down the stairs, down the hallway to my back bedroom, and I shut the door. I was completely gone.
Number 3, Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes. Most of you are probably familiar with Ted Bundy because he's one of the most notorious serial killers in American history, infamous especially because of his all-American good looks and charm.
Why did you do it?
It's quite a mystery.
But even if you've heard the basics of his terrible story, Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, will still manage to surprise you because every detail revealed seems more shocking and unbelievable than the last.
I've never spoken to anybody about this. I am looking for an opportunity to tell the story as best I can.
Prepare yourself to get absolutely horrified.
In there somewhere was a desire to have some sort of revenge on Diane. But for the end of the summer, I'm serious, it's a blank.
Number 2, The Staircase. In late 2001, writer Michael Peterson allegedly found his wife dead at the bottom of their staircase, but he was subsequently charged with her murder.
My wife had an accident. She's still breathing. What kind of accident? Fell down the stairs.
This story is a riveting one that is full of twists and turns, including the fact that one of Peterson's friends died in a similar way decades earlier.
Help! I need help! Anybody! Help me!
This is a documentary series that was gradually added to since it was first released as a French miniseries from director Jean-Xavier de Lestrade in 2004, with Netflix picking up Lestrade's new content for the story over a decade later, and airing the entire series run in 2018. Okay, now seriously, what do you think of the owl theory?
When you look at the wounds on Kathleen's head, the theory that a raptor caused those wounds is pretty persuasive.
Number 1, Making a Murderer. This Emmy Award-winning series from creators Moira Demos and Laura Ricciardi became a streaming sensation when it was first released in 2015, telling the story of Wisconsin's Stephen Avery, a man who had been wrongfully imprisoned for a 1980s sexual assault and attempted murder, and was then convicted of a separate murder almost 2 decades later, along with his nephew and alleged accomplice Brendan Dassey.
I did not do it. How is your family gonna be when they think you're a cold-blooded person? If you made a mistake, they'll understand that.
Your blood pressure could get very high as you watch this deep dive into a legal and moral quagmire.
You know, last time it took me 18 years and 6 weeks to prove my innocence. This time I don't know how long.
The follow-up second season updated followers of the case on what had taken place since season 1 had wrapped.
I didn't think all of these people would care about, this little thing.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.